Hello there, Dave Hill coming at you with lesson number 23. You're learning a lot with these lessons, and I'm sure you're getting better and you're practicing hard, so just keep up the good work and you're going to be a rock star someday, I can tell. So just check back with me when you're rich and famous. All right, so let's talk about the last thing we're gonna learn in our arpeggios in dominant seventh chords. We're gonna finish off with the last shape, the last arpeggio form that we have not covered. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that and then we're going to put it all together. Okay, so we know now already that we've learned these shapes so far. Let's go back to G and just cover what we've learned so far. We've learned this form, right? That fits over the E form. Okay, and we've also added the third on the top of the arpeggio. Okay, that's a great one. Really useful for a lot of blues phrases right around this position. Okay, now we've taken the time and we've gone up and we've learned this shape right here. We learned this one, I believe it was just last lesson. Remember that one? That was when we did it last lesson in F, but I'm just showing you all of these in G right now. So we've learned. Okay, we learned, and that's from the C shape, by the way. And then we've also learned the A form, and it looks like this. It's got the fifth on the bottom and the top, and the flat seven right there. So that looks like this. And this one's nice because you can bend up to the root. And then we also learned this one last lesson. And that's got 3 roots in it, right there, and that's from the G form. Okay, and that's the one we learned last lesson. Okay, but there's one spot that we've not learned, and it's this arpeggio right here. Okay, now that's the form in between this shape and this shape. Right? Notice I jumped up after I showed you this one. I said, okay, we learned this one. But what about this shape? Well, this form is often challenging for a lot of guitar players because it has the roots on the 4th string. Okay, so we're not as comfortable seeing roots in the middle of our neck rather than on the bottom roots on the 6th and the 5th string. So that's going to be somewhat challenging, but let's take a look at it. The 3rd is on the bottom here. And then it jumps up to the 5th, and the flat 7 is right there. So that's the 3rd and the flat 7 are on the bottom here. Okay, that's where those 2 important notes I was talking about on the last video were. And then we jump up to the root right here, right there. And we've got the 3rd and the 5th. And then we go back to the flat 7 right here. And then 3rd on the top. So this is a real bright with the 3rds on the top of it. Okay, so that's the last shape that we've not covered, the dominant 7 with the chord form that would be appropriate for this position being right here. Okay, so once again, 3, 5, flat 7, roots, 3, 5, flat 7, root, 3. Okay, so that's putting it all together now. We've got all 5 shapes that we've covered of dominant 7 arpeggios. Okay, and once again, I told you to relate it to what you've learned before. So remember, we had a major 7th here that we've already practiced and learned, and that would only be different in the 7th, right? So the major 7ths in this shape are right here, right here. So that would be. So that's what happens with the major 7, but we've already learned that one. But now, it's the dominant 7th right here. Okay, so that's a really good arpeggio for this position. Now we've got all 5 shapes, so let's go over them one by one now. Okay, starting from the first shape, 3, 4. Okay, the new shape that we just learned, let's start on the lowest note, the third. 3, 4. Okay, let's start on the lowest note again in this position, which is the third again, and play all the way up to the fifth. 3, 4. Okay, that's out of this form. And then this form right here, starting from the fifth, 3, 4. Let's go ahead and end the root there. Okay? And then finally, the last shape right here, starting on the root, on the bottom E string here. 3, 4. Okay, so there you have it. 5 shapes of our dominant 7 arpeggios. Okay? Now these are all on G. Now you'd want to practice these and go through a bunch of different keys and convert all those to whatever key you're happening to be practicing in, okay? So there's a lot of work you can do transposing and working on other shapes. But before we continue any further with combining them all together, I just want to show you a practice sequence with our new arpeggio shape. So let's take a break and I'll bring it right up. Okay, so in an effort to learn your arpeggios with more confidence and more skill, what I like to do is I like to make up sequences with your arpeggios, okay? So that's what we're doing in this last shape that we just learned a minute ago. So we're going to give you a sequence to practice with the arpeggios. We often think of sequences mostly associated with scale playing, right? Like let's say a sequence in a major scale would sound like this. Okay, that's a sequence of diatonic thirds. We learned a sequence of diatonic 6 a few lessons ago. Right? We've learned sequences in pentatonics. Okay, those are all fine and those are great to practice, but we're going to do a sequence with an arpeggio. Now an arpeggio by nature only has 4 notes in it. It's root, 3, 5th, and 7th, okay? But that doesn't mean that you can't make sequences with it. So I've taken the time to write one on the board in the shape that we just learned, starting with the lowest note of the arpeggio. This is on the 6th string right here. This is starting on the 6th string, right? Right there. Okay, and remember the shape that we just learned looks like this. Okay, now what I've got here is a group of 4, okay? So what I mean by that is it's going to go up 4 notes of the arpeggio, which is essentially the 3rd, the 5th, the flat 7, and the roots. And then I start on the next note of the arpeggio, which in this case is the 5th, right? The next note of the arpeggio right here, and then I go up 4 more notes, which would now be the 5th, the flat 7, the root, and the 3rd. And then I go up 1 more note of the arpeggio, and I start here on the flat 7, and I go up 4 more notes. And then, as you can see, what the next note would be G, and I would go up 4 more notes. And that's my sequence. It's a group of 4 in a dominant 7 arpeggio, so it sounds like this. Okay, now that's about as high as I can get before I got to turn around and come back. And then I'm going to reverse it in the same idea. Okay, so this is particularly hard in this position because of the fact that you're spread kind of out over an awkward position while you're doing this. That's why I chose this sequence over this position to make your fingers work a little harder. Okay, so let's do it slow and do it together. 3 and 4 and. And back down. So it's not exactly something that you're going to make into a melody, or maybe you could, I don't know, but it's never a bad idea to practice these sequences, because you can develop your technique and you develop different ways of hearing melodies and learning your patterns that much better, learning your arpeggios and your scales that much better. So it's really a good thing. There's a lot of benefits to it. So let's play it with our little sequence here. Let's do it now in time, and let's go up and down it a few times. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the top back down. Okay, now I know that might be fast if you just learn it. Hang in there, you're gonna get it. Let's try it again. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Back down. Repeat. One more time. Backwards. Okay, so that's a good exercise to work out on. You can do that and apply that to any other arpeggio too, not just the shape that we've learned right there. You could do it in maybe one of your favorite ones that you already know really well. You could do it, let's say, right here. There's the same idea going up 4 notes at a time. Okay, so it really should be applied in a variety of different ways for your practicing, and not just in dominant 7 arpeggios for that matter, any arpeggio. Right, you could do 1, 3, 5, 3, 5, 7, 5, 7, 1, 7, 5, 3. Makes for an interesting sort of way of breaking up your arpeggios. Okay, so we've got that covered now. Now I'm going to go and put all this together now and talk about how we're going to use it in one of the most obvious situations and useful situations you're going to come across. And that is, of course, we're talking about blues. What better way to use these dominant 7 arpeggios than in a style of music where every chord is a dominant 7 chord, and that's what blues is all about. Okay? So I think by now we've talked about blues enough in some of my other lessons, but we're going to do our blues today in the key of B flat. I've chosen that as a key because I think we often don't play, we've been favoring like whole keys like G and A and D and C, but I want to start playing in a few flat keys. Okay? So it doesn't change on the guitar anything that we've already learned because we know what the shapes are. So if we're going to play, let's say, the B flat 7 arpeggio that I was just working, it's right there. The 4 chord could be played right here if you wanted to. And the 5 chord could be played right here. Gotcha 1. Okay, so you can work this out in any position. You can work out all 3 chords now in one position. You could start here and play the 1 chord. You can play the 4 chord right here. And then you could play the 5 chord with the one that we just learned, the dominant 7 built off the 4th string, and play this. And then back to the 1 chord. So that's why learning all these shapes are really going to come in handy now, because now you can pretty much access any chord progression in any cycle of chords pretty much in any one short, concise position on your neck now. It'll be a lot easier, and especially when we start learning the other shapes like minor 7s and minor 7 flat 5s. Okay, so let's listen to our blues progression here and see what it's going to sound like. It's in the key of B flat. Let's check it out here. Got a little groove here. Okay, here we go. Back to the 1 chord. Here's the 5 chord. Here's the 4 chord. Back to the 1 chord. Okay, let's stop right there. All right, so let's check out our chord progression we're going to be playing. We're playing over B flat 7, so let's listen to how the chords sound. Or B flat blues, rather. Here we go. It's got a little groove to it. Hang on. Oh yeah, I'm a white boy and I can dance. There's B flat. Here's an E flat. Back to B flat. Slow change blues. Here's the F chord. The E flat. That's all it is. Okay, now check it out. Let's play our B flat 7. Now let's go to E flat 7. Back to B flat. Back to F. B flat. Now let's start on the high notes and come down. Let's say down here. New one. There's F7. E flat. E flat. Okay, let's go right up here. Now, I know that you might be finding it difficult to just see where I'm at and just play along with me right here on the video, but what I'm trying to show you is that for the exercise, what we're doing right now, we're not really trying to play a blues solo. What we're trying to do is make sure that we know all the 5 shapes of the dominant 7 chord arpeggios, and we can connect the 1, 4, and the 5 of a blues progression in one position and do it with confidence and do it strongly, okay? Now, if you find yourself doing this, moving the same form up to the 4 chord and then the 5 chord, then what you're doing is you're only really playing one shape, and it might sound like you're playing through the blues using the right arpeggios, but you're not learning the other shapes by doing that. You're just favoring the one that you know. So that's okay when you only know one, but you guys know 5 of them now, so you don't want to do that. You want to force yourself to try to play all the different forms, and you might want to only take 2 or 3 and just make one position really happening for a while and really work on it. And when you get that down, then move to another position and try to make that. Even though you'll be playing some of the same forms, you'll be in a higher position or lower. And you'll find yourself getting better because you're more methodical about it, okay? So let's just jam a little bit. it. Hope you've had a good lesson. I'll see you on the next one, okay? Dave Hill signing off for now. Practice hard. I'll see you later.